Hey guys, it's Jen. Welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another day of VLOGUST. So if you are new to my channel, welcome. My name is Jen. I'm a full-time working mom. I have 2 kids, and on this channel in August, I'm posting a video every day. So if you are not subscribed, I would love for you to do so and stick around. So today is a good example of moving to plan B when things get hairy. So I had planned to post a video today, and it was a video that I had to get approval for because it was a video with a brand, and I did not get that approval in time that I thought I would be able to post a video tonight. So I thought about not posting a video today, and then I thought, you know, my just nature does not allow me to do that, and so instead I'm going to plan B, and we're going to talk about an article I read today on time.com. It's actually going to be in, I believe, the August 17th issue of Time magazine. The title of it is "America has been failing mothers for a long time. The pandemic made it clear what needs to happen." So when I read this article earlier this evening, it struck a chord with me. As you know, I am a working mom, and I have been a working mom ever since my kids were born 11 years ago. And so these are topics that are super passionate for me. And I just think that there are a lot of policies in this country that don't really align with us being able to be in the workforce and take care of our families. So obviously this is interesting to some people who don't live in the United States. When I talk with people who live in Europe or Canada or basically any other developed country that has paid maternity leave, they're shocked that we go back to work at 6 weeks postpartum. And quite honestly, it is shocking. I've done it before and it's terrible. But this article specifically kind of just looks at the effects of this current pandemic and the effects that it has on the economy, on childcare, all of these issues that a lot of us are dealing with. And so I'm going to read some excerpts of the article, and then I'm just going to share some of my personal opinions and my experiences about, you know, what I've experienced as a mom who is trying to raise 2 kids, you know, from birth and work full time, and the struggles that our family has had, which have paled in comparison to the struggles that some people have, but either way, it's a hard thing to do. So I'm just going to go ahead and read some of this, and then at the end, I'll kind of share my thoughts on it. So the title of this article is "America has been failing mothers for a long time. The pandemic made it clear what needs to happen." And this is on Time magazine's website. So I'll link the article down below, and the author is Lyz Lenz. She has also written a couple of other books. I found them on Amazon, but she's a new author to me. So it starts out with, in 1974, humorist Erma Bombeck published a syndicated newspaper column that looms over the lives of American mothers, whether they've read it or not. In, quote, "When God created mothers," Bombeck describes God making a mother with the help of an angel. "She has to be completely washable but not plastic. Have 180 movable parts, all replaceable," God tells the angel. "Run on black coffee and leftovers. Have a lap that disappears when she stands up. A kiss that can cure anything from a broken leg to a disappointed love affair. And 6 pairs of hands. My mother, who homeschooled 8 children, saw that column as a mark of her valor. Not only did it hang on our wall at home, I grew up hearing it quoted in church sermons on Mother's Day. But once I became a mother, I came to hate that column. I think Erma Bombeck did us dirty." As the pandemic forces us to rethink almost every aspect of our society, from why we go into an office to how we set up a kindergarten classroom, allow me to suggest that we reassess the very foundation of our society, motherhood. Motherhood is valorized in American culture because we don't want to admit the truth. We have built an entire economy on the backs of unpaid and poorly paid women. Even as gender roles have shifted in the U.S., the expectation that the mother will be the parent primarily responsible for maintaining the household and taking care of the children, no matter what else she has on her plate, is still as true today as when Bombeck wrote her column. Never has this been clearer than during the pandemic. Although in 2017, 41% of mothers were the sole or primary breadwinner for their family, and an additional 23.2% brought home at least a quarter of their total household earnings, the loss of most outside support from school, from camp, from daycare, has meant that mothers are the ones picking up the slack. A recent study of about 60,000 U.S. households published in the academic journal Gender, Work, and Organization showed that in heterosexual couples where both partners were employed, mothers, quote, have reduced their work hours 4 to 5 times more than fathers. There's no reason to believe this will get better, and plenty of reasons to suspect it will get worse as school districts announce back-to-school plans that are all remote or a hybrid of online and in-person. The drive to reopen the economy without adequate childcare will force women from the workforce in record numbers. Society will call it a choice, when in reality it's a failure of the system. This is not a new problem, nor are the solutions a mystery. We've just chosen until now not to listen. It's time to abolish our conception of what it means to be a mother in America and rebuild it on a policy level. First, we need to normalize women receiving help with childcare. Yes, I agree with that 100%. We are the only industrialized nation without guaranteed paid parental leave, and for half of Americans, full-time daycare costs more than in-state college tuition. Additionally, other industrialized nations offer income supplements to help raise children or subsidies for childcare costs. We do not. This disregard has continued even in these unprecedented times. As economist Betsy Stevenson pointed out to Politico, quote, we gave less money to the entire childcare sector than we gave to one single airline, Delta. The U.S. also ranks 26th in the world for access to preschool for 4-year-olds and 24th in the world for access to preschool for 3-year-olds. But access to early childhood education rarely becomes a top policy priority. The implication is clear. Mom will take care of it. We also need to recognize the hypocrisy in giving mothers so little support when we make it difficult for women to choose when and whether to have children in the first place. Recently, the Supreme Court ruled 7-2 to allow employers the right to deny insurance coverage for birth control. In addition to preventing some women from getting pain relief from endometriosis and heavy periods, this decision takes away a measure of control that can alter the entire trajectory of a woman's life. Amen. Beyond letting women decide whether to have a baby, our government needs to pass legislation that would ensure that those who do become moms are paid the same as dads. According to the National Women's Law Center, for every $1 white dads made in 2018, Asian American and Pacific Islander moms made 89 cents on the dollar, white moms made 69 cents on the dollar, Black moms made 50 cents, Native moms made 47 cents, and Latina moms made 45 cents on the dollar. In 2017, Michelle J. Buddig, a professor of sociology at the University of Massachusetts, published a report, The Fatherhood Bonus and the Motherhood Penalty, in which she explained women's wages tend to decrease after they have kids while men's tend to increase, though these shifts are not equal across income distributions. First, there is a wage penalty for motherhood of 4% per child that cannot be explained by human capital, family structure, family-friendly job characteristics, or differences among women that are stable over time, she wrote. Second, this motherhood penalty is larger among low-wage workers, while the top 10% of female workers incur no motherhood wage penalty. Part of the disparity between fathers and mothers may be due to employer discrimination, Buddig explained, citing research suggesting that companies view dads as more competent and worthy of promotion than moms. Quote, ideas of what make a good mother and a good father and an ideal worker matter, she writes. If mothers are supposed to focus on caring for children over career ambitions, they will be suspect on the job and even criticized if viewed as overly focusing on work. But modern motherhood is also relentless. Not only do mothers in America today continue to spend more time on both childcare and household chores than fathers do, despite men's increased involvement at home, they also spend more time with their children than they did in the 1970s, when Bombeck wrote that mothers had to have 6 pairs of hands even as they worked full-time jobs. Unable to justify the cost of childcare compared with their wages, or in the case of a global health crisis, faced with no childcare at all, women end up being the ones to walk away from work. Previous economic crises in the US have put men out of work, and we've bemoaned the hit to masculinity. This pandemic has hit women, specifically mothers, particularly hard, but instead of contemplating the creativity, discovery, and productivity that are lost when women are forced from the workforce, we expect them to lean in so far they fall off a cliff. In the Bombeck column, the angel comments that the mother is too soft, but tough, God replies. You can imagine what this mother can do or endure. How much longer will fables of valor be held up as an excuse for using mothers to prop up a failing system? Even if women can handle it, or at least appear outwardly to be handling it, does it really have to be this hard? How many fathers would find enduring to be a satisfying existence? I love that line. American mothers have been the under-supported cog in the wheel of American capitalism for too long. We must now completely reimagine their role and start over. I'd love to know what your thoughts are on this article. I'm gonna go through it and just kind of talk about some of my own experiences, but I can tell you there are a lot of things in this article that resonated with me, especially now, you know, with this whole school and childcare crisis going on. There are really not a lot of good options for working parents. You know, Adam and I are lucky in the sense that, you know, we can sort of be a little bit flexible. Adam's more flexible than I am as far as working from home and things like that. But it's a terrible situation to be in. You know, you have to choose between sending your kid, you know, if your school is opening, which schools aren't even opening in some parts of the country, you have to choose between sending your child to school and not being able to keep them home because you have to go to work. You may not want to send them to school, but you don't have a choice because you have to work and you have no childcare otherwise. There are some kids who are sort of in that middle age range, like maybe mine are, where they're old enough to stay home for a couple hours by themselves during the day, but there's absolutely no way that they could be trusted to actually do their schoolwork and log in on time and be trusted with all of that responsibility. They're just not there yet. And maybe if you had an older middle schooler or a high schooler, you know, they could be trusted to sort of stay on task during the day. No way for my kids. There's just no way they could do that. And so what's the alternative? I mean, I know that Congress passed, I think it was like an extension of FMLA or something like that, the Coronavirus Families First Act or something like that. I don't know. I have a memo on it on my desk at work about it in case I ever need to use it. It provides 80 hours. That's it. So if you work full time, that's 2 weeks that you basically get if your child's school closes or your quarantine or your child gets COVID. You get 2 weeks. That's it. Like, what are you gonna do with 2 weeks? Like, once your 2 weeks is up, then what? You know, so different people have talked about filing for FMLA, which, you know, you may be able to do that, but then also if you don't have paid leave at your employer, that time will be unpaid. And so it creates a lot of problems. And I know there are some people out there that say, well, you shouldn't have kids if you can't take care of them. Well, I'm sorry, but we did not predict a pandemic of this magnitude. You know, and people also will say that we shouldn't use school as daycare. I fully agree with that, but we have built our society on using school as daycare. Not in the sense that it is daycare, but it kind of is, right? And that's how we've built our society. So to turn around and say that after we've done this for years, and now all the schools are closed, and say, well, you can't use school as daycare. Well, I mean, that's kind of a goofy point because that's just how our society has been built. So, I mean, tons of parents are in a conundrum about what to do. I mean, I've talked to some of my friends who, like, they just don't know. They don't know what they're gonna do. They're just like flying by the seat of their pants. They have no idea if, you know, school's gonna be opened and then shut down in 2 weeks. Are they gonna be able to work from home? Is their employer gonna let them? Are they gonna be able to, you know, send their kids back to school if they need to? I mean, there's just so many unknowns. And as a parent who is trying to also keep a job, this is like very, very stressful, ridiculously stressful. So the first point that this article brings up is gender roles in the home. And that's something that I have dealt with over time in my own life, in my own relationship, in my own marriage. And it's something where when I first got married and was really young, I was kind of more into those like traditional gender roles. I was young back then. I wasn't as mouthy. I didn't have all the opinions that I have now. And so it didn't really mean much to me to have like the traditional female role. And also we didn't have kids yet. And so that added stress wasn't on our marriage. But as we started to have children and those responsibilities started to fall more and more on me, you can bet there have been lots of discussions between Adam and I about, you know, our roles as far as caring for children, especially when they're little. And, you know, I feel for you guys if you have little kids. I mean, I've been there. My kids are 3 years apart. And so from the time Kira was born until the time Connor was, you know, 2 years old, that's a good 5 years. Where I was in the workforce working full time, having toddlers and babies, and looking back on it, I honestly don't know how I did it. It was terrible to say the least. You know, and I think that's something important to sort of address within your own households. I think that a lot of times, you know, it does get better. It got better in our marriage, especially for someone like Adam and I who both work full time. You know, I said, look, I can't do everything a stay-at-home mom does and hold down a full-time job. I just can't do it. There's no way. And so you're going to have to start picking up some of the slack, or we're going to have to discuss some different options here. You know, so you can bet that we've had those discussions. And I think that it takes time to figure out, you know, what kind of roles you gravitate towards in your own marriage. You know, we're at a place right now where we've got it figured out, but we've also been married for 14 years. So, you know, it's just within the last maybe 4 to 5 years that we've gotten that figured out. So it takes a while to get all those things figured out. But I do agree, and I think in general, women sort of carry that. Sometimes it's referred to as like the invisible load, where like you're the one making the doctor's appointments, you're the one making the dentist appointments, you know where the immunization records are, you fill out the school forms, you know when the school plays are, you know when someone needs to bring treats to class, like all of these things that need to be done with the kids. Like at least in my house, I'm the one that, you know, keeps all that. And so that's part of the mental load too that mothers just inherently carry, and that's regardless of whether you work outside the home or not. Now maybe it's different in your house. I'm speaking in generalized terms, and so I'm not trying to offend anyone. And obviously if you have feedback on any of this, please leave it in the comments below. I'm not trying to offend anyone. I don't want anyone to get into arguments. If you make rude comments, I'll probably just delete them. This is just my experiences and my opinions on sort of all of these gender issues. The second thing that she talks about is really the cost of childcare. And we live in the Midwest, and so we've really been lucky in terms of the cost of childcare. I will say that we were paying, I think, up to $1,000 a month for daycare when Kira and Connor were both little, before they went into school. There was a couple of years there, maybe like 3 years, where they were both in daycare. And yeah, at that time we were paying, you know, up to $1,000 a month, which at that time was more a month than our house payment. So yeah, we were paying a lot. But Adam and I were fortunate in that we both had decent paying jobs. He's an engineer and I'm a nurse. And so we were able to afford that, but I could definitely see how the strain of that, you know, financial impact is, it's a lot. It's a lot of money. And so especially for, like this article said, you know, women who may be on the lower end of the income spectrum, it's not even worth it for them to work, which is honestly a shame because, you know, I just feel like women are allowed to have like passions and are allowed to have like intellectual pursuits, and women are allowed to have a career outside the home. And it shouldn't just fall on the woman to take care of the kids, you know, if they're in a lower age earning bracket. I just don't think it's fair. And obviously life's not fair, but there are policy changes that can be made to help those things. And I was looking at something earlier today, and I haven't taken the time to fact check this yet. I only looked at one source, so correct me if I'm wrong. But it looks like in our government here in the United States, only 24% of our federal government representatives are females. So if only 24% of them are females, who do you think is making the policies that affect women? I mean, there's some women there, but it's mostly men making policies that affect women and mothers. So I just find that kind of interesting. And I hope that in the future that younger people and people of color and minorities and more women get into government, because that's what we need if we're really going to represent the people of this country. The third thing that she kind of talks about is the wage gap, and I'm going to speak about this personally because it's something that I feel passionate about and I feel is ridiculous. So just for example, in our marriage and in our relationship, my husband and I, so Adam is a mechanical engineer. He has a bachelor's degree. I am a registered nurse and I have a master's degree. We both have the same amount of experience, 15 years experience in our respective industries. I have a higher degree, yet Adam gets paid more than me. In fact, I only make 72 cents on the dollar for what he does. And honestly, that pisses me off. And I'll tell you why I think that is. And feel free to dispute me. I personally feel like nursing and engineering are like equal categories, like not one's more important than another. Do you know what I mean? Not that any job is really more important than another, but I feel like they're on like an even playing field as far as like education and skills and like the risks of the job and things like that. But engineering is a very male-dominated profession. I don't know the statistics of like what percentage of engineers are men, but I know it's a lot. And with nursing, there are a lot of nurses who are women. I mean, obviously there are male nurses too, and that percentage is increasing. But when you have a female-dominated profession and a male-dominated profession, the disparity is very apparent. And I know it's the same for teachers too, right? I mean, historically, teachers have been women, and so they've been paid poorly. Like, that's just all there is to it. And if you're a teacher, I want to hear from you in the comments about that too. But I just think it's interesting. And Adam and I like to have some heated discussions over that at times, because I know that not everything's equal and there's a lot more things that go into that. But in general, you know, I do think that it's true in some circumstances where men and women are doing the same job. Women are making substantially less in the very same position. So the fourth thing I want to talk about before I leave you tonight is maternity leave. And that is something that is very strange to me. And if you live outside the US, you look at us with disgust and horror as we say that we go back to work 6 weeks postpartum after we have a baby. And yes, we do. And I've done that before. In fact, I went back to work, I think it was 6 or 7 weeks after Kira was born. And 4 of those weeks she was in the NICU. So I literally got 2 weeks at home with her before I went back to work. And I had been a nurse for, let's see, 3 years at the time when I had her. So it's not like I was in a new position. I had a job, I had health insurance, I had, you know, some paid leave. But the thing is that for maternity leave in the United States, it falls under FMLA, or the Family Medical Leave Act. So legally you get 16 weeks off work and they can't penalize you for that. However, your employer does not have to pay you. And so, yeah, you can have 16 weeks off work, but if you're not getting a paycheck, like how can you take that? So it's kind of like a kick in the pants, really. It's like, oh yeah, your job is protected, you can have all this time off, but you probably won't get paid. Now, I will say that where Adam works, they do pay some for maternity leave. And I think there are some places where you can apply for like short-term disability and get a partial paycheck and things like that. But by and large, you know, employers, the government, they're not subsidizing this. And so what I've done for my 2 kids is, the first time, you know, we were kind of just starting out. We didn't have a lot of money saved. And so I couldn't take a lot of time off work. And so, yeah, I went back and it was terrible. You know, your baby is not sleeping through the night at 6 weeks old at all. And so to me, that was the worst part. I mean, physically I was fine. You know, I didn't have C-sections. I felt okay, all of that stuff. But when you're talking about getting up with a practically newborn baby all throughout the night, going to work every day, like, you will go crazy. And I did go crazy. I mean, I shouldn't say the word crazy because I'm trying not to use that word. Postpartum depression, I had it. Postpartum psychosis, I had it. I was suicidal. All of these things. It was terrible. It was probably the most terrible time, one of the most terrible times in my life. And I got through it, and of course, you know, kids get older and they start sleeping through the night. And then I told Adam, I said, I'm never having another baby ever again, ever. And then he convinced me to have Connor, and we were better prepared at that time. You know, we were a little bit more, you know, financially prepared, I guess you could say, with savings and stuff like that to have a baby. And so with Connor, I did take 10 weeks off work, which was better. But still, you know, you're talking, what, 2.5-month-old baby. They're still not sleeping through the night. So, you know, I don't know how I got through those years. You know, and honestly, Adam was not a huge help and he knows that, you know, we've talked about it before. And it was partially because I just didn't put my foot down and say, look, we're both working. You have to do this too. You know what I mean? And I eventually did, and we sort of worked through that. But it was a hard time. And so when people from other countries say that they get a year off after they have a baby, that is unfathomable to me. Like, I can't even wrap my head around that. Like, you get a year off? Like, I know you're not paid at 100%, but even if you're paid at like 60%, like, what? It's craziness to me. You know, and so I've never really talked about this before, but people ask me if I'm having more kids, and no, I'm not having more kids. And I knew that I wasn't having more kids after 2. And the main reason for that is because kids limit what you can do in your career. And I'm not saying that to be, you know, like spiteful towards my kids or like I don't like my kids. I'm just saying, like, in this country and the policies that we have, it's really hard to have more and more kids and still have a career trajectory. I'm maybe not putting that right, and it maybe sounds like I'm saying that my career is more important than my kids, and I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that both of them are important to me, and I think that in a country such as this, we should be allowed to have a passion and have you know, a career and have both things. I just think that for me, it was too limiting to have more kids. And plus, I didn't really like the baby stage anyway, and I never really wanted a large family, so it was fine. But that's part of the reason why I only have 2, because it's hard. I mean, the more kids you have, the harder it is to, you know, excel at work and keep your job. And it's sad to say that, and maybe that's just the way I feel. And I know there are tons of people out there that have large families, you know, women that work full time. That's just my choice. And, you know, I think a lot of times we listen to people online, like maybe you guys listen to me saying something like, this is what I did and this is my choice and this is why I did it. And some people maybe infer that I'm trying to say that that's the right choice, and I'm not trying to say that at all. I'm just saying that that's the choice that I made for myself and my family. But that doesn't mean that you have to make that choice. So I just wanted to sort of put that out there. I think that sometimes we can infer that when people share their opinion. So anyway, I thought this article was an interesting discussion. This is an odd video for me. I normally don't do like commentary video like this, but it's something that I'm passionate about. It's something that I think needs to be talked about as far as how we're going to go forward from here. We don't know how long this pandemic is going to last. We don't know what the school year is going to end up looking like once school starts reopening. I think we have some indication of that in some districts that are getting shut down because of quarantine. So anyway, I'll leave the article link down below. Make sure you go read it. Let me know your thoughts. Keep it nice in the comments, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.